Director of Training at Ascribe, and today I'm going to be going over the Ascribe version 7.8 enhancements to Ascribe Coder. So I'm going to be focusing on the 7.8 enhancements to Ascribe Coder today. We had a release on Friday, and some of the changes to Ascribe Coder, we did change some of the interface, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody's up to speed on what's going on. Also, before we get started, all the things that I'm going to cover today are detailed in the What's New. So if you access the What's New section and go to version 7.8, everything I'm covering is under the Ascribe Coder part of What's New. Also, the help system has been updated to note all the changes that we're talking about today. Okay? So with that being said, I do have everyone muted. All the attendees are muted as we go through this today, just so that I can hear, or you guys can hear what I'm saying. So if you have any questions or if anything comes up, feel free to submit a question, issue, or observation via the chat in your GoToMeeting dashboard. Okay, so then let's get started. I'm on the Ascribe homepage, and the first thing that I want to point out that we've added to the homepage is a direct link to Ascribe Coder. So we have direct access to Ascribe Coder without navigating to supervisor studies questions. Okay, that link appears here, and also in our right-click menu, Ascribe Coder is now an option. When we navigate to Ascribe Coder via that link, what we're going to see is a pop-up with Ascribe Coder grayed out in the background. And in this pop-up, what we see is a list of our most recent questions, the questions that I, my username, has most recently accessed. And what we'll see are the last 20 that we accessed. And then below that, what we'll see are any studies that have questions that are assigned to my username. Okay? If I click on those studies, the questions that are assigned to me will appear below. All right, so in the Lara conference study, Q7 is assigned to me. In the static care language study, Q99 is assigned to me. So I've got a list of the most recent questions I've accessed, and if I hover over, you'll notice in the list what we see is the study ID : question ID. Okay? The ones that I accessed most recently are at the top. If I hover over it, it gives me information about the study and the question. How many responses, how many are coded, how many are translated, transcribed, so on and so forth. All right? When I navigate down to the assigned to me, again, what we see is the study information. When we click on that, then we see our the questions that are actually assigned to us. The final thing we see in this pop-up is a search box. And if we search for a word, it's going to bring up code books that have that word in it. It's going to bring up studies that have that word in the name, and it's also going to bring up any samples that we've created with that in the name or the description. So those are our three options, our three sources, when we navigate directly to Ascribe Coder from the home page. All right? So if I want to code Q11, or if I'm still working on Q11, I'll click on Q11, and it opens it up for me here in Ascribe Coder. Okay? I can still get back to the questions page if I do need to go to the questions page for this particular study. I'm going to go back home, and just one more time, Ascribe Coder, we now have direct navigation to Ascribe Coder from our right-click menu or from our little blue bar over here. And it takes us to Ascribe Coder, gives us a list of our most recent studies, I think it's top 20, or at least those questions that are assigned to me. So it lists the studies and then the questions that are assigned to me, or I can search. So this is a faster way for us to get to the work that is pertinent to us without having to navigate the supervisor's studies. So for those of you that assign questions to coders, this might be might make things a little easier for them to get in, especially for contractors, for them to get in and actually work on the stuff they're supposed to work on and find quite easily. Okay, so I'm going to actually go back to Q11. There we go. And talk a little bit about other changes. The first thing you might notice is that we no longer have tabs for single and multi-response mode. Okay, the single and multi-response mode tabs have been removed so that we could replace it with our statistics. And our statistics, let me just go ahead and do a quick search here. And our statistics are now in the actual bar, the purple bar up here, rather than above the responses. Okay, there we go. All right, cool. So yes, the single and multi-response tabs are gone. So how do we access the single response mode, or how do we access the multi-response mode? We can control-click the settings icon. So control-click, I'm in multi-mode, control-click, I'm in single mode. When I hover over this, it tells me that this toggles the single response mode. Okay, so that's how we can toggle between multi-mode and single response coding mode. When I hit the response settings icon, when I open it, you'll notice that Code Single Responses is now an option on the Responses tab. So that's another way that I can do it. I can just toggle this on and off to go from single response mode to multi-response mode. All right? So that's the single and multi-tabs. One thing about the single response mode that I wanted to mention, the development team has spent quite a bit of time optimizing this page so that it's quicker to get through or to go from one response to another. It should respond much faster. One of the other things that's being asked for here is a shortcut to applying codes, and we're going to see that shortcut in version 8 of Ascribe. So in version 8, we will have a shortcut in the single response mode for applying codes. Okay. So now I'm back to multi-mode. And while I'm on the response settings, I want to talk about, so we see the change here, Code Single Responses. But we used to have another option down here. And that option that we had down there was include questions from current studies shared in a code book. This option has moved to the When Starting tab. And we also have a new option here, which is Reset Search to Default. Reset Search to Default allows us to tell Ascribe Coder to forget our last search when we leave Ascribe Coder. So let me toggle that off. What we're used to seeing here, and I'm going to just go ahead and search for, let me search for Dixie. So this is the way it worked prior to the release. So I search for Dixie, all right? But then I'm called to another question. I've got to go look in on another question. So I go into my Q7, and it could be a question in another study, right? I go to Ascribe Coder, and when I open my search, Dixie still populates my text field, okay? Which makes no sense because now I'm in a completely different question, maybe even a completely different study. So for me, I would like to clear that search prior to going into another question. So I now have the option in the response settings on the When Starting tab to say, you know what, reset the search to defaults anytime I leave Ascribe Coder. So now let me do a little search here for control, there we go. Did my search for control, 29 responses came up, 8.3%, right? But now I'm called back to Q11. So I'm going to navigate back over to Q11, click on Ascribe Coder, click my search. Notice that control is not here because it automatically reset it to default when I left Ascribe Coder. So now the default is nothing in the text field, show only, uncoded, and new search. Those are the defaults, okay? And at any time, you know, you could have some kind of search going on here. whatever, right? And at any time you can hit reset to defaults, and it will change it to nothing in the text box, show only uncoded responses, and new search. So this is something that from your feedback that was implemented, because a lot of us, what we want to do when we navigate into a new question, you know, maybe I want to go into this time, maybe I'll go into Q8. When we navigate into a new question, what we would like to be able to do is hit this button, just one click, and bring up all of our uncoded responses. And that reset to default allows us to do that. We can guarantee that whenever we navigate into a question and hit this search again button, that the search that will be, the search options that will be used is nothing in the text field, uncoded responses, and a new search. Okay? All right. So now, while we're talking about the search, one of the things that I've already talked about is this reset to defaults button. Again, that just sets that back to the default for the individual search. But we also now have this option to minimize our search box. And when we minimize the search box, what we can do is we can type. So maybe I'm looking for a price, cost, value. And I just type it in and hit enter, and there's my price, cost, value. So the search box takes up less room, and if we close it and bring it back up, it will still be minimized and appear exactly where I left it last time. Okay? So those are the changes to my search box. All right. So we talked about direct navigation. We talked about the single and multi-response tabs and the optimized performance in the single response tabs. We talked about our search reset to defaults and the minimize. We talked about the when starting tab. So now we need to talk about the statistics. So and some of the cool things that have been implemented here. So previously, when we searched, we had all of these statistics up here in a really small font, okay, above our response pane. We've removed that. So now all we see underneath our response tool set is our actual responses. And our statistics are over here to the right. Okay, these are our statistics. The statistics that we display are the number of responses that were returned. So 20 responses were returned in my last search, or 5.7% of the responses. In this set of responses, right now 0 are selected. Now you notice I've got 1 selected, 2 selected, 3 selected, 4 selected, so it counts how many I have selected. If I want to deselect those, clicking on it is a shortcut to deselecting those. Okay? So we have a visual telling us how many are selected, and it's actually legible now. We can see it. And clicking on that deselects the responses that were selected. All right? What if I want to actually search for, this time, I want to search for, no, all. There we go. I suppose I could have just reset that to default and then did this. There we go. And I've got some coded responses here as well. When I select codes, those are the codes that are applied that I'm selecting, the ones that are highlighted in green. So it tells me I've got 3 codes selected and 1 response selected. Okay? Again, this is just for us to know what's going on. All right? And if I want to remove those, boom, boom. And notice when I hover over, it actually gives me more information. So when I hover over the stats, it will tell me how many responses were in this search, how many are displayed. So if we've got paging implemented, it'll tell us how many are displayed on the first page. The number of respondents in the question, and then the number out in the study. Last coded, duplicates coded, whether it's sorted or filtered. Let's talk a minute about last coded and duplicates coded. I'm going to go back into, no, we'll just stay right here. So let me find some duplicates here. I've got a nothing here. There's a none. Okay. So if I code one of these none responses, boom, 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 there we go. You'll notice that it tells me I last coded 9 responses because I had code duplicates on, and we wanted a visual to tell us how many we had last coded. So we last coded 9. If I hover over it, it tells me, yes, the total last coded were 9, and 8 of those were duplicates. So at any point in time when we code something, that we can always see what the last, the count for the last thing that we did. Okay, so last coded were 9. The other things that we see here, the little words, this tells me that my last search was one of these. Okay, a new search. And if I click on it, it's a shortcut to bringing up the search responses. I don't know how much time saves clicking there rather than clicking here, but it's just the same as clicking on the magnifying glass. Okay, so it tells me what my last search was. Another way to kind of show this, let me just go down here. Let's click on expensive price and hit search any. Notice that now that says search any because my last search was a search any search. So what that means is that if I click on any of these codes and hit this, it's a shortcut for search any. Okay? So this kind of always tells us what our last search was. Okay, it's just a visual indicator there to tell us, hey, we searched any, we did a new search, or if we search within current responses or selecting current responses, it'll tell us that as well. Okay? The sorted, it tells us, and I keep trying to move my cursor down there, it tells us at the very bottom of this little pop-up that, or fly out, I guess, that we're sorting right now by verbatim length and then by verbatim. This is also a shortcut to our sorting tab, so we could change the sort if we like. If I have a filter set, which I'll do that real quick, just set a filter on my purchase intent. There we go. We'll do top 2 box. Hit OK. Okay, my filter, it's not set yet. I have to actually do a search for my filter to be set. And of course, there's nothing that matches that search. That's weird. There we go. If I want to access the filter, I can just click on that. And then one of the things that I can just clear all my filters right there. Do a search again. And now the filter goes away. Okay. So those are all the new, kind of the new statistics. So it's just letting us know what's going on while we're coding. Again, we put those up in the bar, made them more legible, and then if we hover over, we kind of get more details about that. On the codebook side of the screen, we also have statistics that used to say, I think it used to say selected, one selected. Now it tells us how many are selected. We took the selected word away, though. And if we click on it, it deselects them. So this is a very quick way to deselect codes in the code book, something that we've been asking for some time. Boom, they are now deselected. All right. So that's all the main things I wanted to talk about. There's one more thing, and it's the optional loading of large code books for those of you that are using code books with more than 1,000 responses. So I'll go into that now. And there is a thing here that says that the response side is thicker than the code book side, the menu bar. And it will be, all of this is connected as one. So it may take up a little more room up there. You may need to move your resize bar a bit to make the two headers equal. So what I see is, you know, if I scroll over too far, and this looks similar to what we had before with the statistics being above the responses, but it's now part of the menu bar, so it makes the menu bar look, or the toolbar look larger. So you might prefer to work that way, or you may want it this way. Okay? Cool. So again, we talked about direct navigation, single and multi-response tabs, optimized performance, statistics and item counts, reset defaults and minimize in the search. Somebody just asked, can we remove the hover for statistics? I do not think that's an option today to remove the hover for statistics. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it's not an option today. That is something that we can request, that the ability to remove the hover. I'm writing that down right now. Thank you for that feedback. All right, final thing. And this one, again, would be only for those of you that are dealing with code books with more than 1,000 codes. And what happens when you've got a code book with more than 1,000 codes in Ascribe version 7.8 is that Ascribe coder will ask you whether you want to load the code book. So we've got optional loading of large code books. So if we say yes, it'll just display all 2,647 codes. It might take a second, but this was created from an actual inspection. So it's listing all 2,600 and some codes if we say yes. That's nothing new. We're used to that. And some of the functionality of the code book will be grayed out when we have a large code book like that. But we have another option to say no. And when we say no, the code book doesn't load, okay? But it's in the background. And the idea is we can add codes to the code book this way. If there's just a few codes we need to add, we can add them. They would be inserted, I believe, at the end of the code book. We can check on that. Or we could search the code book. So usually, if we have a code book with more than 1,000 codes, we're probably going to be searching it anyway, and we may even have it printed out beside us. And what our development team witnessed with a with a team that was using a very large code book is that most of the time they knew a word in the codes they were searching for. So they would search for that word and then apply the codes accordingly. Okay? So, you know, they search for design, and then they would apply the design code to where it needed to be applied. And then they would search for the next thing. And I don't even know what else we have in here. So I search for the word set, and it brings up everything that has that character string SVT in it, and I could apply codes accordingly. Okay? For this to work, you do have to have find all, codes only selected, and really all it's doing is us allowing you to search your code book without having to display the entire thing each time you do something. So it's a quick way to bring up the codes that are pertinent to you that you want to deal with. And for now, that's how we're dealing with large code books. Okay, those are all the version 7.8 updates to Ascribe Coder. I did want to make sure that I said in version 8.0, we are going to be giving that shortcut in the single response mode. We're also going to be dealing with paging. We're going to allow the paging restriction will be up to 30,000 responses rather than 1,000. And also we're going to be dealing with code duplicates, allowing you to determine how you'd like to deal with code duplicates, whether you would like the code duplicates to apply to what's displayed on the screen, or if you'd like it to apply to everything the way it does today. So just wanted to make sure that I said a little bit about that. And that's everything I have. We have a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and submit them via the chat. Or if anything comes up while you're working in Ascribe today, submit it via support@languagelogic.net, because we're watching very closely for feedback. All right. Any questions? All right. Okay, somebody asked me to talk about the performance I spoke about. So one of the things that we had feedback on was that our single response coding mode, so when we're in single response mode, that it was responding and not coding as quickly as we'd like it to. And our development team spent some time optimizing this mode so that it worked quicker, so that codes would apply faster, so that it would go to the next response quicker. So we would really like to see your feedback on that and what you think on that. So that has been optimized for the version 7.8 release. I don't know how he specifically optimized it other than that I've noticed that it responds a lot quicker than it did in 7.7. Any other questions? All right. Cool. Well, thank you guys for your time today. And as I said, if anything else comes up, please let us know, and we'll do our best to address any issues, questions that you have. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.